Thank you so much for joining us today on Sidebar. Please go to sidebartv.com to get on social media, to watch during the show, and then join us after the show. That's sidebartv.com, because we do go live on Facebook, and then we continue. Well, it's not only Facebook, it's just about every social media platform. And if you do go to sidebartv.com, that's where you can also consider becoming a contributor, not only one time, but you can just do it every month and just have it as a regular part of your lineup and your budget, because we really, really would appreciate it. So I've been reading, I cannot stop reading about everything Charlie Kirk. And all I can say is that to call this assassination just a devastating loss, to me, it doesn't even scratch the surface of what happened, because I still can't get my head around it. And I don't know how everybody's feeling still, but I want to talk about this and maybe figure out how to deal with it. And every week, if you're just a newbie today, or if you are, have been here with us from the very beginning, you know who you're going to be listening to today. Former Bexar County DA Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and Jorge Araujo, scholar, former chemist, pharmaceutical researcher, and director. I read an article before we started today, and I didn't know about it. Maybe you guys have heard of The Nation or thenation.com. And the headline was, Charlie Kirk's legacy deserves no mourning. And they called him a white Christian nationalist provocateur. And that he was the promoter of hate, bigotry, division. And I keep on thinking back and saying, where was the hate? Where was the bigotry? And what in the world was he saying that would have caused such a reaction from this dude who was a straight A student, no prior record, no political affiliation? How does this even happen? And how do we get through this period?
Well, I mean, I don't think you do without a biblical worldview.
Same.
I mean, I just don't. What do you do? I mean, you're stuck in the world has no answers. Just like when my brother was murdered, the world told me, I don't blame you for being angry. I don't blame you for having hate. What do I do with anger and hate that society and the world says, I don't blame you for having? Now, I was dealing with the reality. My brother was shot in my driveway, and my parents and my younger brother and I walked out literally moments later, to see him on our driveway. And I've talked about that in the past, loading his body on the gurney and helping my mom off the floor, and all the stuff that we dealt with that I talk about openly now. But the world says, I don't blame you. So then I turned into an angry, vengeful, SOB. What your heart has, your body, you will, not only will you say, but you'll act out. As a man thinks, so he is, right? Proverbs 23:7, you'll never live beyond what you believe. These are ideas, these are principles that I live by. I think that objectively you can support them. And so for me, without an eternal mindset, you don't get over this, because then you just repay evil with evil. And Scripture says, don't repay evil with evil. It doesn't mean be a doormat. I am definitely not a pacifist, and I don't think I know the Bible doesn't support that. And I believe in self-defense. I believe in protecting yourself. I'm a strong Second Amendment advocate. But you don't overcome this. But there's such a deeper talk here, because I've talked to a lot of people. We did a podcast on it on Wednesday. I was on the radio with Jack Riccardi about this and other things. There's anger. There's justifiable anger. It's called righteous anger, and it's an emotion, and it's God created it for a reason. It's what you do with that anger that's the issue for me. What do you do with that anger? Do you respond? What did Martin Luther King do with anger? And what happened after that? What does anybody do with anger, and how you respond to it? I mean, how did Jesus respond to people that hated him? I mean, he allowed himself to be murdered. Obviously, if you're a Christian, you understand why. But so all I'm saying is we're stuck in this world where politics has turned into religion and cultish mindset. And to disagree, you have to hate the other side. You can't just disagree anymore. And we've gotten to this point where, and look, we just have to call balls and strikes here, right? Where one side is using different rhetoric and more intense rhetoric than the other side. That's just a fact. I mean, we can sit down there. I heard someone, I think it was Batia George, she's a superstar. She's a very articulate, she was on a show, and someone had sent me this video where she just went line by line about these acts and rhetoric of the left versus the right. And of course, you get the extremists on both sides. Got it, check. I understand that. But when you call your opponent, when you devalue your opponent, then there's no value in their life. I mean, I think I'm more, I mean, so there's anger for trying to squelch free speech. There's anger for no one should lose their life for words. You just shouldn't. If you want to agree to fight in mutual combat, okay, great. And then someone wins and you walk away, I'm cool with that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. It's actually legal. But no one should lose their life for their words and for their opinions. And so there's anger for that. And then there's this whole set of anger, and it's actually disgusting for me. And it you know, my flesh wanted to respond in rage, which I'm pretty good at that, or I used to be good at that. And I was actually deeply concerned for my children and my grandchildren down the road. When you see people celebrating this man's loss, I mean, you're talking about a depravity and a reprobate heart that is just to a level that, and look, and there's, and I don't want to call him out just because out of respect. There's someone that listens, and it's not Alamo Talk, but it's someone that listens to the show, and I've had some nice, decent exchanges with him. Who was, I mean, just the responses were just, I was saddened for him and for people that, how do you do that? I mean, how do we get to a point where when we talk about this in the left, and even the people that are against this, that say, you know, you have to preface it with, I disagree with everything he said, but this is so sad. Who gives a crap about everything he said? Can you address the humanity side? This is the part that saddens me and worries me for my children. The humanity side of it. Look, I mean, I can be angry like the next guy, and I got a lot of stuff to be angry about in my personal life and this and my journey. But there's a joy for me, and that's why I'm very open about I do prison ministry and involved in ministry. There's a joy that I get from understanding the peace that I get in my Savior Christ, Jesus Christ, and then, you know, this hope of heaven after this world. This world is broken, it's flawed, and Charlie believed that. And so when you and there's a separate side, and I'm just trying to give you a lay this all out, Karen, because there's a lot of topics to talk about from here.
I know it.
And if you don't think that this was actually could be viewed as an attack on biblical worldview, I mean, Charlie advocated a biblical worldview. I mean, and like we do here, he intertwined his biblical ideology into his politique. His politique, meaning his set of ideas advocated by a group of people to affect the lives of others. You know, that's the working definition George and I use for politics. Set of ideas advocated by a group of people to affect the lives of others. Well, that's really Matthew 28:19. Go into all nations, making disciples of all men, teaching them to obey all that I've commanded. And we should be doing that with boldness, but also love and grace and wisdom that we don't have, and that's why we have to rely on God for that. So, and then you have to have a discussion about the death penalty, because everybody's talking about the death penalty now. And and guns, of course, the left has to bring up guns, and that just drives me absolutely nuts, because this has nothing to do with the gun. I mean, a gun was used, but it was a heart that used the gun. And we can talk about the data once again, because I think we have to, with alcohol in vehicles and actual gun deaths versus suicides, because it's a very weak and unintelligible argument when you try to say this is a gun issue. It's not a gun issue. It's a heart issue. Everybody online, they don't have a gun, but it's a heart issue. They're broken when they celebrate the death of a daddy and of a wife. I mean, and on a university, right? University, unity and diversity. That's what university means. Unity and diversity. Unity in that diverse ideas that we have, that we bring to the arena of the university to spar with ideas, right? That's critical thinking, and let the best idea win, and do it by persuasion, not by violence or yelling. So we've lost that. So that's kind of laying it out. I can expound on any one of those things, Karen, but I don't know where you want to go. But I believe it's sad for this country. I hope this is a pivotal point for this country. I mean, obviously, it is in full display, the vitriol and the hate, the true hate that we have on at least more on one side, in my humble opinion. And that's why when people start yelling and calling each other names on the comments here in our thing, why do we get into name calling? Let's just talk about ideas. I mean, look, I can call names, I can use flowery language. I got it. I mean, I got a PhD in that too, but that doesn't get us anywhere. I want to move the needle, and so we're not going to unify after this. We're just not, if we don't start changing our hearts and understanding our rules of engagement in politics.
Well, that's a pretty sober assessment, isn't it? We're not going to unify after this, and so it's how do you unify? How do you compromise with people who want you dead? If anyone walks away from this, Nico, and thinks that there isn't a significant faction of Americans who think in those terms, the late Charles Krauthammer. We said it differently in this show, but Charles Krauthammer, I think, started defining the political landscape this way. He said, conservatives think liberal. He called them liberals at the time, but because I think we're long beyond classical liberalism. But he said conservatives tend to think that liberals are stupid, but liberals think conservatives are evil.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because if I think you're stupid or misguided or wrong, then I'm going to seek to persuade you otherwise. If I think that you're evil, then what's my recourse? Then I'm going to think that anything I do is totally justified to stop you. And that's not, I think it's important that we recognize that this isn't a fringe of the American left. This actually defines the center, the foundation of the revolutionary political project. And we need to contend with that. We need to address that reality. And platitudes about unity coming from politicians on Capitol Hill aren't going to get us there.
Okay, we're going to take a break. Please stick with us. We'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar, and you can go to sidebartv.com to find a social media platform so you can stick with us during the show, but you can also join us after the show when the conversation continues. We're talking about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, let's jump in there. So I'm glad you sent me this. So Alamo Talk, I mean, I have to say I'm very disappointed, with this Good Morning Republicans, White Christian Nationals, which is that is probably one of the most ignorant statements. Because what does that mean to you, Alamo Talk, first of all? Because we've talked about what a white Christian national is. I'm not a white Christian national. I'm a Hispanic Lebanese Christian, a Christian that happens to be Mexican and Lebanese. I believe in this country, so I believe the country has the potential to be the greatest country and is the best. Maybe not great, but it's the best out there. Definitely not white, so you need to check your camera. It seems like Charlie and the team finally got a taste of their own hatred. I don't understand what that means. The funny thing is, just listen to this. Alamo Talk, they're very disappointing because we've had nice discussions in the past of your own hatred, because you show me where Charlie was, because this is my point. It's a definition deal.
Exactly.
So because you disagree, that's hate. So then now I can say, based off, be careful the world you help create, because someday you may have to live in it. So now Alamo Talk and whoever disagrees with Christianity or disagrees with conservatism and disagrees with whatever, America first, now that's hate speech. And so whatever happens to them, and I don't want anything to happen to them, quote unquote, is okay. And then we should laugh at that. You see, where does it go from here? But with this, first of all, it's dishonest. And look, I'm just going to tell you, this is absolutely dishonest, And then you're talking about, and I don't know anyone that mocked George Floyd's death. I don't know anybody mocked. If you disagreed, and I had debates with conservatives about whether he should have the knee on the neck and how long he should have the neck. And I wasn't on the bandwagon or whatever. Now that we know that George Floyd passed away, there's other factors that went into his death, unfortunately. But I don't know when they mocked it. Sure, were there some that probably did, but is that the norm? No, it's not the norm. But this is my point. And so where does this is not the answer. It's a shame. I like that Alamo Talk listens and other people. But I think this is extremely short-sighted. And this is ignorant, meaning just not intelligible, meaning you're losing facts here. I'm not trying to name call. I'm just saying these are ignorant statements because they're not facts, they're not accurate. And it's a shame because I like debate, I like discussion. And if you can't win the ideas, and when you start, if I go into court and misclassify, not debate evidence, but I misclassify evidence. If somebody busts into my house, and this is what's happening in countries, someone breaks into my house, burglary of habitation, with a gun with intent to commit an assault or a felony, and I draw my weapon, I have a weapon with my children, and I shoot that person is dead in my house, and then but then some ideology determines that to be a murder, then I'm screwed. Then you're never going to be able to defend yourself. You're done. And believe it or not, that's happening in some countries, by the way. And so this is my point. Definitions matter. And when our definitions are way off like this, what an example. I'm glad he said that because he's expressing his, but there's the gloating here. For me as a Christian, and I believe he's claimed to be a Christian in the past, Proverbs 24:17, do not gloat when your enemy falls. Do not rejoice in their downfall. Because number one, you're not going to be in God's favor. Look, win with facts. Win properly. I mean, like I always tell people win like Barry Sanders and Evander Holyfield, right? Win right. And this is not a win, by the way. This is not a win. This is not, your ideology got you back. What are you talking about? He went out there with courage. I don't see anyone on the left doing what Charlie did. Alamo Talk's not doing it. It's easier to do it behind a keyboard, but you're not doing it, and you're having debate and discussion. And he welcomed, and if you look at all the videos, I mean, he was very gracious to people he disagreed with. Of course, you're going to have passion. Passion is not emotion. There's passionate, but so I'm very disappointed, but I'm glad he's on here listening. I want more people to listen, even people that disagree with us. But this is not the answer. So this right there, that response from him, unfortunately, is the dog-eat-dog world, is the king of the mountain ideology, and that will never, ever, ever, this country cannot sustain that.
And it's also not a minority in the country. I just don't agree with that. I think this is we need to deal with the sad reality. I am very disappointed, but I'm also very unsurprised. I think that this isn't coincidental. I don't think it's a fringe view. I think this captures the religious fervor at the center of what is a really kind of a Marxist hate-filled statist cult in the country. And it's a fractured mind, Nico. You keep talking about ideas, and while it resonates with me and free-thinking people who think that that's what America was built on and that know that that's what our forefathers wanted, while that resonates and it's important, it needs to be the constant rallying cry of Americans. This falls on deaf ears. Again, why do I give a crap about someone's ideas that I don't think is even human? This is what's behind this crap. I mean, so you've been on this show. You know what motivates us, Alamo Talk. You know the things that matter to us, and you've reduced us to white nationals. I mean, really? So this is my point. There's a dehumanizing trend inside this cult, and that's necessary, by the way. You can carry out anything's fair game to this cult who can't think clearly. I mean, unfortunately, Alamo Talk, as grateful as I am that he tunes in, is depictive of a mindset that is not intellectually rigorous, and they have no moral center. This is all about power and exacting influence over your opponent, no matter what happens. It's Machiavellian at the core. And so we are, I think if Charlie's death points us to anything, it's a decision, Nico. What kind of a country do we want?
That's really the question.
Do we want that? Do we want that
I don't want
BS, that nonsense, that drivel? Or do we actually want a country that goes back to what it was built on? The idea that you can share ideas,
that's right,
and just have strong, viscerally strong disagreements, but yet recognize at the end of the day.
And you know what? To your point, George, I would stand in front of Alamo Talk and defend his right to say that stuff. I mean, with everything I have, and I wouldn't slow down. I would go against quote unquote conservatives. I'd go against Christians because I believe in an idea of free thought and free expression of thought. But it's also sad that it proves a point that I had no idea who this guy Nick Freitas is. He's a Virginia lawmaker, former Green Beret. A buddy of mine sent me, he did a YouTube because he did some tweet or X or whatever. I'm not on there. I need to, I know. And I took, he had a long one, but I took this away from it because it really, I mean, what an example of that he's right. This is part of a longer tweet. Nick Freitas, I mean, he's some Virginia lawmaker. This is not a civil dispute among fellow countrymen. It's a war diametrically opposed of diametrically opposed worldviews that cannot peacefully coexist with one another. One side will win and one side will lose, then he keeps on going.
It's 100% true.
That's so sad. It saddens me. That's what I'm saying. There's so many facets to this. That part saddens me the most. Because, someday, look, here's the reality. And look, we all have to contend with this. And if Alamo Talk is a Christian, as he's hinted on in some of his comments or some of the things he's agreed on my comments in the past, look, we all have to contend with. We're going to stand before an author of all of this thing, of life, of the universe. We all have the same end result. Guess what? The only thing we all have in common, Karen, no matter if you're Islamic, Christian, atheist, Buddhist, Hindu, agnostic, whatever you are, pantheistic, we're all leaving this earth. Every single one of us at different times, whether it's old, young, in between. And I deal with a world where young people leave this earth. And that's why I spend so much time sewing into young people, because young people think, oh, I got plenty of time to do whatever. No, you don't know that. I mean, look at the shootings at schools and all this other stuff. But that really saddens me. It really does, because we shouldn't even be talking about because it's not like he advocated, you go out there and you beat up trans people.
Never did.
Never. You're not going to get an example. You're going to lose that in a court of law if you have to bring something called evidence to back it up. Now, if you define disagreement as violence and silence, remember that whole silence is violence crap? I mean, you're never going to win that. So this is my point. This is not a civil dispute amongst fellow countrymen. That guy, Mr. Freitas, Nick Freitas, he's right about that. We've talked about we've been in a guy, Mr. Freitas, Nick Freitas, he's right about that. We've talked about we've been in a civil war of ideas for years, by the way. Now it's culminating. This can never be okay. And look, I'm going to say this. The guy Cenk from the Young Turks, who is just a left-wing dude, and I'm open-minded to convincing to me being wrong. I'm not perfect. One person was perfect on this earth, and it wasn't my stupid ass. I mean, so I'm always open to changing my mind. I go into every conversation with that. But we got to be able to have a discourse that's different, because this doesn't end well for this country. And our enemies have to do is keep it up, idiots. I don't even have to pull one trigger. I don't have to press one button. You guys are going to eat yourselves up. And this is what it is, and this is sad.
Oh, it is, and I think it is mutually incompatible, and that's the problem. We have ideologies that are mutually incompatible. You have an ideology that absolutely abhors and has a constant and animating disdain for the country itself and for the principles that founded the country. And so what exactly is the mutual way forward? If one one faction believes that, in fact, the country is worth saving, it's worth preserving, it's worth celebrating its best ideals and going back to basics. In fact, we've strayed from the basics of looking at each other as indeed creations of God, and to the extent that we know God and walk with him, children of God that have dignity. We are all image bearers. That really, again, so I always say the Declaration of Independence is first and foremost a theological statement before it is a political statement. It starts off on the premise that we are accountable to God. God exists, and this nation is made up of human beings that are precious to him, and as such, we need to conduct ourselves with dignity, because at the end of the day, we are accountable to him. But first and foremost, our jurisprudence is based on that philosophical concept. And so that's the starting place. We don't have that. We used to share that as a nation, but we don't have that common glue anymore. See? So there's an ideology that doesn't just dismiss it, but it actually has a disdain for that. And so therefore the consequence of that is really sort of what happened in the French Revolution, which is really blood in the streets. Because you are subhuman, then you deserve to be annihilated. Exactly how do you compromise with people who want you dead? That's the point here. We need to deal with that reality. And I think the solution is going to be a full-throated, persuasive, legislative, prosecutorial effort to go after the corrupt and anti-American and viscerally hateful activism, their sources, and all of the financial wherewithal that means. There needs to be an active pursuit of this rot. And we damn well better have the balls, if we can say that on the radio, to go after media, to go after academicians, people of authority. I'm not talking about the guy in the basement, Nico, who's a stoner and says stupid stuff. Everybody said stupid stuff. I'm talking about people in authority, college professors. I can't tell you how many posts from college, university professors that have been vile, that have made what Animal Talk just said seem like a walk in the park. I mean, really vile stuff. Celebration of the murder of a father of two and a husband simply because they disagree with what he says. I mean, they're calling for his murder. This is coming from people in positions of authority. Do I think that those people should be canceled, indeed fired? You're damn right I do. You're damn right I do, because they hold positions of authority and they are influencing sort of the mode and the tempo of society. And how you use that authority matters. and you got to be held accountable.
But you think those institutions should fire them?
Well,
you don't
sure.
think they should be like
Exactly.
a law that says that. Yeah,
I
because
do.
I believe
But
they
then-
have a right to say those stupid things and those evil things. But I would hope that the moral compass of a society and the moral compass and the culture of an organization would not, like MSNBC, you want to criticize them? They fired that dude immediately.
Yeah.
Look, and Fox should do the same thing, and anybody else should do the same thing if somebody said something stupid and vile against the other side. That's the answer. I don't think I'm not saying you were saying this, George. I don't think there should be a law that you can't say that. That there should be a law you can't say that. I just think there should be a moral compass that doesn't
This is the first time that we've seen that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was amazed at even that. We are going to take a break right now. But when we come back, we'll continue this conversation. I have a question about the young people of America. I feel like it's really affecting them and their thoughts about the future. We will continue. Stay with us and stick to sidebartv.com to find a social media platform for After Show. We'll be right back.
San Antonio's news, weather, traffic, plus breaking news 24/7. This is News Radio 1200 WOAI from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Cars studio.
I'm Eric Lycum at News Radio 1200 WOAI. Charlie Kirk's widow speaks of his devotion to family. Details coming up first. Traffic and weather together.
From the WOAI Traffic Center.
Drivers downtown look out for some road construction. That's going to be leaving only the 2 left lanes open on northbound 35 upper level to take you to the lower level between Laredo and just after Alamo. That's causing a 25-minute traffic delay. And some more road construction work on southbound 35 on the northeast side between Judson and Randolph Boulevard. I'm Carson Parnell, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
With sunshine today and winds increasing out of the southeast, the high should climb to 96. Partly cloudy tonight with a low 73, and sunny and breezy tomorrow with a high again around 96 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jeff Marr from the Weather Channel on San Antonio's official weather station, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
High 90s today, right now, sunny 79. The WOAI 24-hour weather center, our top story. Political leaders from both parties mourning the loss of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated on a Utah college campus at the age of 31. Speaking from the headquarters of Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, his widow, Erica Kirk, spoke of her husband's commitment to family.
Privately, he told me if he ever did run for office, that his top priority would be to revive the American family.
A suspect, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson's in custody in connection with the shooting. His arraignment is Tuesday. A man and a woman, Cecily Beltran and Marcos Martinez Jr., arrested by Bexar County deputies for having stolen mail in their car, including Social Security checks. The couple denies knowing anything about it. Longhorns host UTEP. Kickoff at 3, pregame at 2 here on WOAI. News on demand at WOAI.com. Breaking information as it happens. I'm Eric Lycum on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by Thrivent.
At Thrivent, planning your finances is bigger than money. It's a way to support the people, causes, and community you love. Because the most important thing isn't what you're planning for, it's who. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with us at Thrivent.com.
1200 WOAI, please go to sidebartv.com. That's where you'll find a social media platform of your choice, because we will continue after the show. Before the break, you were both talking about laws. Should there be laws that have to do with what happened? I mean, can you go into detail about both of your sides on what you feel about that?
What I think is that there ought to be a concerted push to exact consequences on people in positions of authority who use those positions of authority with really sort of careless abandon, and where they're literally calling, and this is only coming from one side. Let's be absolutely crystal clear about this. This is only coming from one side. We do not have conservative leaders calling for the wiping out of their opponents. That doesn't exist, okay? And every time there is some sort of major... Look, we just had a conservative hero. In my family, as we said on our rated this past Thursday, for me it was personal. I didn't expect it to be this personal, but because my kids loved Turning Point USA and loved Charlie, and they met Charlie, and they had a connecting moment with Charlie and with Erica, that stuck with my kids. At an impressionable age, And of course, they're like-minded. They have very much the same values. Charlie was a person, and I also believe that this had a lot to do with his faith. He was a person who was very open about his faith and trust in the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm a believer. I share the same worldview that he shared. I believe that he was authentic in his profession. I believe that he also knew what he believed and could defend it very, very, very effectively. That's part of what got him killed, is that he's so effective at defending his view. The guy perched on a rooftop, couldn't win an argument, so he took him out. I mean, this couldn't be starker in terms of what these two factions refer to. I don't have a problem, by the way, being part of a faction of belief or a faction of worldview in that context. And we do have faction beliefs at war here. I think that's true. But Charlie was very open about his faith. My kids really connected with the organization. They have taken this very, very, very hard. I mean, literally for the last 3 days, there's been crying in our home over this and struggling to understand. The problem of evil has come up. We've talked through. It's been an opportunity to talk through it. Why in the world, Dad, would God allow him to be taken out at this time when we so desperately need more voices like Charlie? And Charlie's one of one. How are we going to get another? I mean, it was hard for me to just sort of contain myself, because the question kind of hit me. How are we going to get another Charlie? Where's that going to come from? We're all surveying sort of the political landscape. Who else could it be? There is no other Charlie right now, at least in our limited view of scope. And so, anyway, this is very. Trying to set the stage, Nico, to say this is very personal for us.
Sure.
For me, I'll say it. This is very, very personal. And it's personal for millions of untold people across the country. Where are the burning houses and precincts and cars? Yeah. Where's the pillaging? Where's that? Where is that? Now take what happened, because these topics are. Take what happened with the Charlotte stabbing. Right? These were just two individuals. If the roles had been reversed, if the perp and the victim were opposite, are you kidding me? Is there anyone who's listening right now who doubts that the outcome would have been totally different and decidedly violent? If you can't pause and just process that and recognize in those terms how that is really an effective illustration of where we are in this country, you're not following along. Yeah. So my point is, worldview matters. Worldview matters. Like you say, ideas matter. Yeah. But it begs the question, how then shall we live if the other side believes that you don't even deserve to have ideas? Yeah. Legitimate question.
All great valid points. I guess for me, my hope is even in the Christian movement. I mean, Jesus was one of one. Yeah. And he passed away in his early 30s. I'm not comparing Charlie to Jesus. I'm not at all. And no comparison. But then there was disciples, there was people, there was a movement that spread. I mean, arguably Jesus had to leave, or this movement wouldn't have spread the way it did. And of course, biblically, we understand the role of the Holy Spirit. So yeah, but you're right, George. I mean, I've heard that argued over and over these last days, and it's true. Just really, I mean, just do a thought experiment and do your best to make it objective. Are you kidding me? If anyone, even though there's no one on the left that's anywhere close to Charlie in effectiveness or representation of your side, what would be going on? In the bus stabbing, which I'm not there yet. I'm not there to say it was racial. I think he was sick. I mean, he said, yeah, I got that white girl, but that could have been more of an observation. She was white. I mean, did it trigger him? I don't know. I need more evidence is all I'm saying. But can you imagine? I mean, it would be very different. You're right, George. And that tells you the stark difference in the ideology. You have school vigils, and you have prayer groups, and you have a movement and people impassioned, but they're appropriately expressing that passion. There's not chaos. There's not violence. Violence does not beget more. I mean, violence begets more violence, right? And you're not having that. So that tells you we're in full display for anyone to doubt that there's not a difference in ideology. And the difference is the people, the leaders on the left would justify because you're angry. It's no different than when my brother was murdered. What do? Do you justify me going into a rage, into a violent, murderous rage, which I felt in my heart? It happened in my mind, I promise you. I debated that in my mind. People knew how intense my anger used to be. And I'm not saying I'm not still passionate these days. I'm just saying it was uncontrolled. It wasn't controlled by the Holy Spirit. But the world says, I don't blame you. If you have leaders saying, I don't blame you, you have a right to be there, and you have no, temper yourself, right? So this is, to me, is absolutely, here you have it. You have a difference in ideology, and ideas matter, and ideas have consequences, and they're not all the same. And so you're right, George. And so what's the answer? And I think part of this falls squarely in the lap of the church. I mean, the church has been beaten into a corner. The big C church, not small C individual churches. There's a lot of passionate and bold pastors, but there's a lot of cowardice pastors too. They want to go along to get along. And I'm not saying, look, I won't say it. I'll say it on the after show. I always say there's an 11th commandment in Exodus. Don't be a stick. I use a different letter in the beginning, right? Don't be a jerk. Right? But be bold. 2 Timothy 1:7. Don't have timidity, right? Do it with grace. Speak the truth in love. Ephesians 4:15. Love meaning what? The definition, God's love, agape love. This love that wants to draw you closer to a creator that we believe is the creator of the Bible, and the evidence supports that. It's not about me. It's not about winning an argument. I don't want to be right for the sake of being right. I want to be obedient to a different way of life based off principles that I didn't come up with, that I just agree with them. So George, you're right. It's deep here, and this is exposing a scab that hurts because it shows the rot in our country. I mean, just when I saw those videos, and I know this doesn't represent everybody. I didn't even get a chance. I couldn't find Bill Maher's response to this, but I'm sure. I mean, I know he liked Charlie, I like that Cenk responded the way he did from the Young Turks. I like that there's certain people that are saying there's no excuse. I mean, Bill Clinton, Obama had appropriate responses. Even Biden, Gavin Newsom, to their credit. Now, you can be a cynic and say, oh, it's because they don't want to be next. I mean, who wants that, by the way? I get that. I don't want this tit for tat. It needs to end.
I have my thoughts on Obama.
Okay, well, that's fine.
That I'd like to get your thoughts too.
Okay,
because,
ask me, because I haven't heard you say this.
Because they're not nice.
Okay.
But I think they're true. So Obama starts out by saying he had no idea what the motive was yet behind the killer. And it seems to me that it's rich coming from Obama. This is a guy who puts a suit on radicalism and gets elected president of the United States, whom during his campaign, the media refused to acknowledge the political ideology that had really sprang his entire political career. His direct, which now we know, but no one could talk about lest you be called racist at the time. And it's the same ideology, Nico. It is a well-documented fact that his mentors and the people that he got, I don't know about aid and comfort, but he sure got counsel. Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, leading members of the Weather Underground, a radical American terrorist organization that between 1971 and 1972, in almost 2 years, 5 bombings a day, including the 1981 Brinks truck robbery that left 3 people dead, a security officer, 2 cops. This was Obama's upbringing. This is the same ideology. It is an intolerant, violent at the core, radically revolutionary movement. This is his background. He knows perfectly well the ideology that was behind the killer. This isn't hard. So does anyone really believe that this was a personal issue? Somebody, maybe they lost a card game to Charlie and they were put off and they found a way to get on a roof and got a long-range rifle and give me a break. Everybody knew what Charlie Kirk was there to do. What was the banner? Prove me wrong. That's a rhetorical challenge. He's not there to exact violence. He's there to challenge ideas, as Nico says. This guy couldn't win an argument, so we killed him for it. That is the ideology that sprung and that built Barack Obama's career. Now, he put a suit on it, and he pretended he was a moderate. But you go back to those 8 years, give me a break. Can anyone make an argument that racial tensions in the country actually got better in those 8 years? They were divisive as hell. So my point is, let's cut the bull. I hear a lot of, this political violence is not acceptable anywhere in this country. Yeah, that's cute, except if you hadn't spent the last 10 years calling the President of the United States Hitler. And so I'd like to ask, as I always ask, I asked on R-Rated Christianity, and then you responded, and I think you should respond again, and that is, Nico, you call somebody Hitler enough times, what can come from it? I mean, I don't think there's anyone who would disagree that Hitler should be held accountable and should have been at least capital murder for his heinous crimes, right? What's a reasonable, just outcome for somebody who's Hitler? And so if their enemies are Hitler, please think this through. Remember, your words do have consequences.
Well, that's why definitions matter, George, right?
10 years of hatred spewed by positions of authority, educators, politicians, influencers. And I guess my question is, do we just sort of cry on about unity? Do I think that there ought to be
what are we unifying around? That's the what is it, pluribus?
E pluribus unum.
Yeah, backwards. Out of many, one. What is the one? We're one nation under God. Look, you don't have to like that, but that's kind of an ethos. That's a philosophical ideology that this country believed in. One nation under God. There's evidence of that, and our Creator endowed us with these rights, these inalienable, inseparable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life. You have a right to live. Liberty. Freedom, but your freedom stops where my nose begins. I understand that. And then happiness, and happiness is not your feelings. Happiness is property ownership, free thought, free expression of that thought, free worship, entrepreneurship, and freedom to express yourself, all that. That's what it meant. We have to unify around that, and we've gotten so far away from that we don't have a country anymore.
Okay, we're going to take a break right now. I want to ask about the death penalty. People are asking what's going to happen to this guy, so maybe we can touch on that, but go to sidebartv.com because we will continue this conversation after the show. We'll be right back.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar. We invite you to join us on the after show. Go to sidebartv.com if you are not on a social media platform yet. And definitely consider becoming a contributor, a sponsor to the show. You can do that at sidebartv.com. Where do we go from here? I mean, I almost don't want to talk about the suspect and the death penalty because, it seems like there's such a separation between the guy that did it and the depth of what happened and how it's affecting America and really the world. But what is going to happen to this guy?
Well, I mean, they're seeking the death penalty. Utah has a very unique statute. In Texas, this would not be death penality eligible. Because,
wow, that is sobering.
Talk about please talk about the categories in Texas.
Yeah, so to be eligible for death penalty, you have to murder a police officer, EMS, some type of judge, some official, prosecutor, things of that nature, murder a child under 10 years old, murder two people in the same incident, commit a murder in the commission of an enumerated felony, meaning aggravated robbery, kidnapping, sex assault, things of that nature. And for remuneration, meaning for murder for hire, things of that nature. So if you could tie it to something like that, but in Utah, they have something called aggravated murder, and there's an element there, and they're saying that if you knowingly created a risk of death to other individuals. So that audience, that environment, I mean, the fact that they could have been killed, I think they're stretching it. I'm really not a fan of bending a law to fit a specific situation. I understand of case of first impression. I think the prosecutors have a right ethically to be creative, but also legal and moral about it, in my opinion. My understanding is that statute in Utah was more for like the drive-by shooting, where I was trying to kill a lot of people, but I only killed one. And I knowingly created a risk of death to other people. You understand?
Yeah.
That seems to fit that than more this, because obviously he had it's a bolt-action 30-06. That's a hunting rifle. It's an effective hunting rifle. A 200-yard shot is not a long shot for a hunter that has been shooting with a 30-06, and you have a clear shot. That wasn't a difficult shot. I mean, I'm saying it was the easiest shot. It's not some.
And if you look at the layout of the buildings, it's a rather straight trajectory.
Oh, it's a straight. Yeah. I mean, it's not. It was like some sniper. I mean, at the beginning, I was saying, You know, I wonder if they thought that he had a bulletproof vest, even though it looked like he was wearing a T-shirt. And we know when they were dragging him out the back, he didn't have a bulletproof, unless they tore it off. I don't know. But it was just, there was some odd. So I think, was this person aiming for the neck or head? Or was it a center mass shot and it went up, which probably was the case. He was probably going for his chest or center mass and then went up. Who knows if he admitted that or not. I mean, so, you know, it wasn't a difficult shot for that deal. But at 30-06, I remember when we were saying, George, we were talking about it, they left it in the woods. I said, that's not a professional shooter. In my opinion, it wasn't. And you know, and we can talk about the conspiracies and all this stuff on the after show, because there's way too many of them.
Well, isn't a conspiracy is that the authorities, after talking with his roommate, found evidence that he was on a like-minded sort of terrorist planning site called Discord.
I didn't
and that
know
these
that.
details were actually part of an exchange. And so, this is just one of them. There's tons of them out there. This is common, unfortunately. And so I guess I wonder, these things are allowed to proceed with impunity.
Now that's a different discussion.
Well, that's part of what like. What do we do? And that's why I said it needs to be a full frontal assault.
Those
against
sites are not, because I mean you are advocating and encouraging violence.
Sure.
I mean, terroristic threat. You don't have free speech with terroristic threat. If we go out there, if you, me, and Karen go out to, God forbid, rob a store, and then George has the gun, and me and Karen are saying, "Shoot him, George! Shoot him! Let's go!" And we're looking out. We all get charged with capital murder because it's an ag robbery, and there was a murder commission during an enumerated felony. And we'd all, under the law of parties, and you know, we'd be all guilty, or you know, at least charged with capital murder. So I don't have the free speech of saying, "George, shoot him." So I'm not I say that when I say I'm almost a free speech absolutist. Obviously, it stops where we create.
But I want to just pick at that a little bit, if I can. So again, we've talked many times in here, particularly with the role of an educator. The American left has this. I think seems to me rather inarguable. In fact, there's peer-reviewed studies on this. They really have captivated the American educational system. And so it's overwhelmingly in favor of the left. And so what you have, and it's really permeated in the natural sciences. That's how loony this is. But certainly inside the social sciences and the soft sciences, there is a just sort of full court press indoctrination effort to corrupt the minds of youngsters and the minds of college students against their own country, and present a one-sided narrative about America, about humanity in general, and about what it means to actually live in this country. And it's decidedly violent. And we were just talking about it in the front end of the show, Karen, where, you know, you have, it's an us versus them when Nico says a dog-eat-dog world. That's the dog-eat-dog world framework is the framework that really sort of frames how every other discipline is communicated inside the American educational system. These are people of influence. They're the credentialed experts. They have at least a minimum responsibility, Nico. This crap is being fostered in the name of education. That we've talked about it. We paid lip service to it. There needs to be a concerted effort to go after that classroom. That's my concern.
Oh yeah. To mean to change the environment
exactly.
in the classroom. Absolutely.
Because it's institutional.
Absolutely.
So so when you talk about ideas, up until very recently, with some of the laws that have been passed in various states that really make it illegal for DEI to be really promulgated from state-funded universities, part of their curriculum. Until then, you could even present a different side. I mean, you had to worry about it affecting your grades, and you had to be worried about it being ostracized. In fact, we've seen violence, just an anti-Semitic kind, over the last 2 years in the aftermath of the October 23 Hamas slaying of Israeli civilians, et cetera. So we know what's going on inside the American academic, what should I say, enterprise. I don't think there's got to be more that we can do. I'm not beyond persuasively. I'm thinking legislatively, at least, corporately, to really sort of, if somebody's engaged in that kind of trafficking of sort of ideologies that are violent in nature, that ostracize opponents, explain to me why it's not appropriate to take a more formal approach to that and make sure these people get dismissed from their positions. I'm not saying willy-nilly. I'm saying this should be investigated and so forth. But
But do you want the government to come in and tell them to be dismissed, or do you want it to happen because the organization doesn't support
that depends. That depends. If it's a publicly funded institution and you've got government dollars that are going to fund those institutions, then the government has a right.
Right.
It seems to me
to not support that.
Now, if it's a private institution, that's a whole other discussion.
But what I'm saying is, my worry sometimes is if the government comes in to fix everything, then the government comes in to fix everything. And what if we have the government we don't want? And again, I'm going to say the government under President AOC or under Gavin Newsom. That's what worries me. Again, be careful the world you help create, because someday you may have to live in it. So like our founding fathers, I want an educated populace and I want a virtuous populace. And then the government doesn't have to come in and do anything, or very little, right? They take care of the borders. Big supporter of what Trump has done on the borders. Take care of law enforcement. Make sure that we have a safe environment so we can go back to debating each other. I want to go back to debating. I want to win on my ideas. I don't want to win because I dominated you physically. Sure. Because then I better always stay on my game. And then when I get to my 80s, I'm like, oh, I guess I can't dominate anymore. I'm done.
Sure.
And they throw me out to pasture like the lions do, right? And you don't want that. We honor our elderly. We honor people. We take care of our youth. I want our educational system to give us a foundation to engage in the arena of thoughts and ideas. And treat your neighbor as you want to treat yourself. I get that the left doesn't want to call that a biblical idea, but someone came up with it, and it wasn't me. And if they like that idea, they can't support why that's a good idea. Well, that's just good for society. Well, says who? You? So now you're God. So you're okay with someone making the rules. It just has to be you. See, that's the problem with the leftist or the atheist. They're okay with someone making the rules up. It just has to be them. Yeah. So they step into the place of God, small g, and then they make up the rules. Someone's got to make up the rules of engagement. Who makes up? And what are the rules of engagement? The rules of engagement is we meet each other in the arena of ideas, and we come with something called evidence and facts, and we bring and we debate passionately, not emotionally, passionately. And then when we then let the best idea win, and that's what Charlie exhibited. What's wrong with that? He didn't spew hate.
Nothing.
Disagreement is like, if your definition of hate is disagreement, then the left is one of the most hateful bunch of individuals I've ever seen. Everybody's hateful then. We live in a world and a country of hate. This country sucks. This country is valueless, and we should just all move somewhere else. If that's our definition, then this country is ruined. Disagreement equals hate? No. That is not what disagreement is. Just disagreement. And then we persuade each other to go on each other's side, and we encourage each other to persuade, and we protect each other's right to disagree. And I protect your right to disagree with me, and you should protect my right to disagree with you. And if somebody wants to hurt you for disagreeing with you, guess what? They're gonna have to go through me to hurt you, because I want you to disagree with me because it makes me better. Do you understand? That's what this country is founded on, not this BS. And so I agree, George, and we need to get back into our education systems, and we need to have people that are honest actors and come to a table and say, look, if we're not going to be able to, that's why negotiations between Russia and Ukraine and all that, because you have completely different ideas.
But why did his very organization turn on Charlie's Turning Point USA? Why did his very organization, in terms of the mission statement, turn on showing up at colleges and universities, at campuses of colleges and universities?
The battleground
because that's where the battleground is. I mean, he's not stupid, and he'd show up there. And the stuff that you just said is actually what he said shortly before he died. I mean, just trying to sort of lay out where we are right now in the country. It's a very sobering assessment. And I mentioned that poll that he was talking about, the assassination culture post that he put out there. He presented shortly before he died a poll from the Network Contagion Research Institute, where he said that a staggering 55% of left-wing respondents that it was at least somewhat justified to assassinate Elon Musk, 48%, excuse me, and 55% thought it was okay to do that to Donald Trump.
That's crazy.
Okay, so Trump, what he said is that what we have here, and I'll quote him because I don't want to get it wrong, he said, quote, "The left is being whipped into a violent frenzy." This is Charlie Kirk. Any setback, whether losing an election or losing a court case, justifies a maximally violent response.
My.
That's what he wrote. Quote, "This is the natural outgrowth." On X.
Okay.
He said, this is, in April, by the way, this is the natural outgrowth of left-wing protest culture. Tolerating violence and mayhem for years on end. The cowardice, and let everyone who's anywhere, well, aside from present company, but I would say anybody who's in the legal field, listen to what he said here. He said, the cowardice of local prosecutors and school officials have turned the left into a ticking time bomb. And really what happened on September 10th was that part of that bomb going off I think he assessed it right. It is an assassination culture. What do you do? What do you do when you're dealing with individuals, again, who don't think that you even have a right to disagree?
We're gonna have a lot to talk on the after show. We're gonna talk about the death penalty. We're gonna talk about the Charlotte stabbing. We're gonna talk about all that stuff. We need to get into that. But then, what does the left do? If they agree that 55% is okay with an assassination culture, is it okay if it applies to them? This is the question. Be careful the world you help create, because someday you may have to live in it. Look, guys, please join us. We're going to jump on the show right after. We have a lot to talk about. Respond to your comments. Thank you for joining in. Look, if you're a prayerful person, pray for this country, pray for our youth, and pray for Charlie's wife and his children. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
The preceding show was paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed.
Sure, I mean, he's one of the guys that's been out there warning against Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh in the immediate aftermath of Roe, saying that, basically warning them, watch out. You better watch out, because you've reaped the whirlwind, you know.
Another platform that might help. There's no audio, they say. So, I don't know. Before we talk about the death penalty,
I still want to talk about the young people, because my daughters are like yours. Okay.
Well, I don't know what the pivot point is, because I think we've been going back and forth because there's so much that's related between the two. But it was a personal week for me. I explained that on the Charlie Kirk
Same
front.
for my family.
But also, the Irina and Kirk posted about that. He posted about that, and he says, basically, are we really surprised? I mean, you look at the prosecutorial approach of the left and left-wing judges. Are we really surprised? And he was outraged by her death, and that was a personal instance for me too. It was really hard for me, Nico. I have a daughter that's a year younger and a year older than she is, and it was impossible for me to watch that video and not see them.
Great. Sounds not great, but it's on. That's what someone's saying on Facebook. Go ahead. Sorry,
I have a daughter who's a year younger and a year older than Irina Zurutska, and I watch her come in, and it's hard for me to watch a video like this now after you and I have talked so much about how you look at videos,
and she has no idea.
None.
And just saying it just breaks. It just breaks my heart. She has no idea. And then I'm analyzing this from multiple angles. Here she comes in. She's got her face in her phone. Problem number one.
Yeah. Well, even if it wasn't, couldn't help but sitting behind you.
And then she has her earpods on. All I'm saying, it doesn't help.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And so, because you're always talking about situational awareness, and I'm just thinking about those things don't help. But I mean, everybody's doing this. That's just the way culture is. But she walks in and she sits down and she's just oblivious. You know, who knows what she was doing? Maybe she was texting somebody. Who knows? But you can just see the look of horror on her face. She's been stabbed and she has a delayed response. And I think she's realizing that she's been stabbed. Adrenaline's like rushing through her veins. She probably sees blood, and then you can just see her
fade.
Mm-hmm. And my heart just absolutely broke. I was just filled with rage because we've had reports of her family watching this, and just the sheer helplessness. And so you kind of step back and say, what the hell is happening to our country? Because you had people around her that I think are a sad reflection on where the apathy. I mean, just
it wasn't apathy, it's fear. I think it's just fear. They're terrified. What are they going to do? That lady was. What is she going to do? She's going to get stabbed too.
I mean, you had men who were sitting there. They were able-bodied men.
What the fuck? What does that mean? I mean, what is it? I mean, and people are scared. They don't want to jump in. Look at that Marine that jumped in on the New York subway. What's his name? They choked
Daniel
out
Penny.
Daniel Penny.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets prosecuted for his life. He's having to fight for his life because instead of ideology, to Charlie's point,
because he helped
prosecutors, because he jumped in to help, and other people, everybody was terrified. Thank God for a jury. Thank God for a trial by our peers. Even in New York, because everybody knew that's me. That was me. That I've been there. I've been there silenced when someone's yelling at me like, "Don't look at me. If I don't look at you, don't look at me." Instead of facing, and that's why I add. Look, I mean, you know how I feel about it. That's why I train my kids up. Proverbs 22:6. I think children need to be dangerous. Yeah. Dangerous with their faith, dangerous with their mind, and dangerous with their hands. God forbid. God forbid. And notice it's the third one, not the first one. I don't advocate violence. I just train my children not to run from it. And you've got to, because people feel helpless. You feel victimized. I mean, if you don't know, if you see someone getting stabbed or raped or whatever, and you're not formidable with your body or with a weapon or whatever you have, then what are you going to do? Yell? Run away? Turn the attention to you, and then you become the second victim? That's the mindset people have. It's fear. Fear is paralyzing.
Yes.
I get it. It's fear. Why do you think Jesus, how many times did Jesus say, so many people try to count it, fear not, fear not?
Yeah.
No, he wasn't always just talking about physical fear, but he was talking about don't fear, obviously, the ideas that, because it's going to bring physical fear. The early Christians were being murdered.
Yeah.
I mean, just study the book of Hebrews, study the 1st and 2nd Timothy. Paul's talking about it. He's talking about people in Acts. I mean, people are being prosecuted for their faith, for their ideas, dare I say. There it is, their ideas.
Same thing.
Not exactly, but yes.
But for every video I've seen of that, I've seen a video of people intervening and stepping in.
I got it.
And stopping that kind of
but
injustice.
I'm looking at that environment.
I guess I'm thinking, hopefully, I just again, a reflection on the country that we're in. I would hope that this isn't, growing up, this isn't the America that I've been accustomed to. I mean, I graduated from 1986 in high school. And I mean, I grew up in a scrappy, it was a scrappy group. I mean, people stepping in
but it's a different world. But I'm telling you, a knife fight is a dangerous fight. It's a different self-defense. You're going to get cut. And you can be a shitty knife fighter and still win a knife fight. You can still win it because all it takes is a slice of this and that. Right there. That's it. You're done. Mm-hmm. I mean, and if you don't understand how to knife fight, I've done knife training, and it's scary. I mean, you would do knife fighting with have special fake knives with have markers in it, so you know where you're getting cut. I defended myself. All these bullshit. And it's watch a video of a shanking in a prison, and you tell me how you're going to be ready for that. I'm just devastating. People don't want.
So
People think they're going to do something, and then they're in the situation. And if you don't train your mind for combat, if you don't train your mind for violence, and you don't know violence, you ain't going to do shit.
True
and
enough.
So that's all I'm saying. And then you have this fear, and then people that, let's say someone can do something, and then they're like, well, shit, if I jump in, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, especially after what happened to Daniel Penny.
Two different angles, and then we're saying, men, toxic masculinity. So men are emasculated. It's like, well, I think I need to cry more and sit down more and wear pink. I'm nothing against pinks per se, but I'm just, you know what I mean.
I get it.
Sitting down there, and then let me be some wussy doormat. That's not manhood.
True manhood is strength, but under control. Understanding chivalry, understanding the beauty of a woman, and honoring her, and raising children up, and defending truth, and defending the helpless, and defending the homeless, and that's true biblical, to me, masculinity. We've lost all that shit because we've demonized it. You know what I mean? So sorry. I guess what I'm saying.
Shit
so
well,
much.
you're kind of making my point in a different way, because I grew up in that culture. I grew up in that American culture where that would have been the instinct. And it just seemed, fair enough, valid point on fear. Not just fear of the individual, but fear of the reprisal.
Yes, Daddy, yes.
from the system. The Daniel Penny story is, exhibit number one. But I saw what was going on there as indifference. I've seen other videos where people just kind of sit there. I mean, is that not indifference? Are you saying it's all fear or a combination of both? I'm just saying it seemed disgusting to me that this poor soul died alone like that, bled out. I mean, and the story just is heartbreaking to me. And I resent, again, the left, the disgust. So conservatives are appalled by this precious life being snuffed out for absolutely no reason whatsoever. None. So conservatives are appalled. And the narrative that comes back from these bullshit fucks on the left-wing side of politics is, all of a sudden we care about Ukrainians. Really?
Is that what they said?
She's a Ukrainian refugee. All of a sudden we care. These are the same people. Oh, yeah, I've got posts here. Too many to count. That's why I said yesterday I just sent you a sample. It was like 10 of them. They're all coming from universities and educators. But in this case, you have pundits out there pontificating about how all of a sudden, conservatives care about what's going on in Ukraine. I mean, these are the same people that have voted every time or pushed to defund Ukraine. Really? This is a soul on our soil.
That's right.
This is an individual here in the United States of America. An attack on her is an attack on all of us. You can't, you don't think there's a difference between that and what's going on in Ukraine? And the war between Kiev and Moscow? Give me a fucking break. Use your head. But this is what I'm talking about. See what I mean? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that this was gross and that a precious soul. I mean, I don't care if she was 23. To me, she looked like a little girl in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
To me, she looked like a little girl. I mean, it was debilitating to me. She does this.
I know.
And she's looking up. She wasn't a 23-year-old. And yet I'm thinking to myself, she came over here. She's a refugee. She's working at a pizzeria. She's busting her ass.
2 jobs.
She's the best of America as far as I'm concerned. I don't give a shit that she came from Ukraine. She's on our soil. And you know what? She's doing what my parents were doing.
Trying to make something of herself.
Working
in her life.
a menial job.
Right.
It is rage-inducing. There's a righteous anger element to this that I think conservatives are coming from. And what does the left do? All of a sudden you care about Ukraine. This is my point. It is almost impossible to have a conversation on ideas at the idea level because there is a visceral hatred and everything is reduced to their pet cause, Ukraine. Again, the American Red Cross says that there's 120 conflicts going on, armed conflicts going on in the world right now. But if you read the American left, they only care about 2, Ukraine and Gaza. Nothing else matters. We start talking about genocide in Nigeria, no one cares because it's black on black crime. We talk about Chicago, no one cares on the left because it's black on black crime. It just doesn't fit.
That's right.
It doesn't fuel the religious narrative that allows them to seed disdain and divisiveness in their politics. This is a sickness, and we have, to your point, we got to get back. Got to get back to our founding principles, the things that matter, the things that elevate human beings and don't degrade them.
You talk about sickness, and I still can't even comprehend why. And to me, I saw mostly young people posting that they were so happy about Charlie Kirk being murdered, assassinated, and I can't understand what made them think that was okay. If it wasn't Charlie Kirk, if it was anybody, what makes somebody think it's okay to post your face, your information to say, haha, he deserved it? What kind of person does something like that?
I mean,
Teachers did it.
Yeah, I want to say confused. I want to say, but it's something deeper. It's a reprobate depravity where you've devalued someone that George said earlier so much. See, for me, I'm persuaded by my worldview, and I believe that everyone, Alamo Talk, Mark Antoine, anyone who disagrees with us, are image bearers.
Are precious.
Whether they're living up to that potential.
Yeah.
But they're image bearers. They have a unique fingerprint that God only gave them that nobody else will ever have in the history of mankind before or after. And so when you look at that, if you're persuaded by the fact that God, in His splendor and His sovereignty and might and love, said, "Let us make man," meaning woman. That's a general statement if you understand linguistics. In our image, that we're all image bearers. Now, again, that doesn't mean that you don't defend yourself. I would not sleep. I would not lose 1 second of sleep if I had to take a life to defend my children. I mean, I would sleep better because I would be so joyful that God gave me the stead hand, the courage, the reaction to defend my precious children,
just
or
the
my loved one,
opportunity
or an innocent person, or someone that I didn't know, another child, another human being that was being trying to attempted murder, and I could. So as not you don't have one or the other. You understand my point? This is the problem.
I do.
There's a temperance in a biblical worldview, where in Ecclesiastics it says that, and we'll talk about the death penalty here in a second. I know you wanted to talk about the death penalty.
Yeah.
So we've gotten so far away from that. And to George, everything George was saying, and whether I mean, it's true. You can't objectively disagree with what George was saying about these set of ideas, and it's about power and winning at all costs. I don't want to win. I don't want to win at all costs. I used to be that way. I just wanted to win. We win at all costs. Second sucks. Well, yeah, second still sucks, but it may be good based off where you're trying. You did your best. My kids, hey, you did your best. That's all. But that's where my mindset was. And if you have a side. And if both sides, whatever side, I don't want to win at all costs. We have to win we have to win the right way for the benefit of the country moving forward, because the rules that you're setting up now, this is the rules moving forward. Murdering and celebrating. So the left would be okay if somebody on their side was horribly murdered, and then the right was celebrating. And if the right celebrates, I'd call their fucking ass out too.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, I would be the first one to go after them. That's what you get. When I say be careful the world you help create, because someday you may have to live in it, that's not a ha nanny. That's like, see, this is my point. Yeah. When the pain, you don't think it's a bad idea because it wasn't affecting you. Are you okay with an idea that affects you? That's what I always challenge people. It's not do as I say, it's do as I do, type mindset. And that's what Jesus modeled for us, by the way. So it's about ideas. We have to get back to discussing ideas. The church has to grow up here, Big C Church, and start preaching the full counsel of God, not just the feel good. Oh, Jesus loves you. Yes, He loves. He loves all of us. He loves that shooter that murdered Charlie Kirk, and he can be redeemed. How about that? Do you know that? Do you know the biblical worldview says, Karen, that man can end up in eternity with our Savior?
I know.
Absolutely.
Paul
was Saul of Tarsus. Yeah. He was a murderer. I mean, look at King David. He was such a horny bastard. He committed murder to cover up adultery. And he was a man after God's own heart. And God didn't mean he didn't go through trouble. There's consequences. But he was a man. I have no doubt he's in heaven. So all I'm saying is that's a different mindset versus putting someone in a corner. Calling out evil doesn't mean that there can't be redemption if there's humility. There's evil behavior and there's evil hearts. There's difference. There's people that do evil things. They don't have an evil heart.
And it doesn't mean that they shouldn't pursue the death penalty for him.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
Those are separate things, right?
Yeah. Look, if I was a prosecutor, if I was a DA still in Utah that had that, I would seriously consider the death penalty, even though I don't believe it was made for that situation. But this is a situation that is so grotesque in the sense of what you did, because you've affected. I mean, look, he had a magazine with 3 or 4 other shots. That's a hunting magazine. He didn't have a magazine with 30 rounds, and it wasn't a semi-auto. It was a bolt action. So you know what that is? You go back and you come back in and you expel the shell, and that's a hunting rifle for the most part. I mean, yes, you can use a 308 would be more for sniper stuff. And so when they found a 30-06 in the woods, I said, this is not a professional. I told George that. He said, really? Yeah, in my opinion. And, it happened. So he could have turned the last 3 rounds on other people and shot other people. He was going after Charlie.
He knew. He wasn't. It wasn't happenstance. It was planned.
It was obviously he didn't have an exit plan. Obviously, he jumped off a building.
Not a great one.
Hurt his ankle or some shit. Which is good.
But it was certainly deliberate. It was planned. We know what the motive was, and then to be where he was. I mean, he knew where to be. And to have that kind of shot.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, that one's true. That's interesting.
Because you could be anywhere.
I mean, you had to. I don't know if he spoke or not, or he lawyered up.
Yeah.
But to know exactly, because have you seen that video? I think I sent it to you guys.
Yes.
Where you can see where he was.
I saw the layout of the buildings before you sent the video, and I thought there's a lot of roof, and they're up and down. There's multi-level roof
shot,
and he picked. I mean, it was. you don't just happen upon the best possible line of view. That's why I thought.
But I wonder, was there information where the tent was going to be?
Well,
I mean, that's
you
my
knew
in my
because
mind.
it was like an amphitheater,
there
and
you
so
go, amphitheater,
you knew
yes.
that was a different setting because usually he's
were
in
steps.
flat ground,
There
but
were
this
steps
was
that led down
like
to
an
it.
amphitheater, steps down.
Yeah.
And didn't they say they found the gun? His roommate said that he had put the gun in a towel and hid it in the bushes the day before
Yes.
or something like that. So I
the
mean,
particulars of that were also in the Discord exchange with that they found.
Yeah.
So this had been rather premeditated and planned.
But
not that it was professional, but at least it was deliberate and planned.
But the left is trying to change the narrative that this is a conservative right-wing guy that
They
didn't care.
are. Why?
I mean, because that's
It's
to George's
so
point. George made the point earlier.
pathetic.
It is pathetic. I mean, look, this guy was not some conservative advocate. He wasn't. I mean, look, whether you like it or not, he just wasn't.
His
yes,
dad was.
It seemed like his
Yeah,
pop was.
yeah, right.
Yes. I mean, look, talk about the honor. I mean, the pop turned him in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, through a minister friend of his.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a man that believes in principles.
Yeah.
And,
You know?
and his dad has a background in law enforcement.
That's what I heard,
But he's
too.
also a youth pastor.
Oh, the dad is, or he had a douche back.
dad
Yeah,
is.
he also
Oh.
he is also a youth pastor, and so this was. I think this was kind of
He's a police officer. Didn't he turn him into the place where he works?
in concert with this family friend
Yeah.
that you were talking about
Okay,
that
okay.
called him. But anyway, but this kind of makes our point. This is the point we've been making. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a conservative family. I know a lot of conservative families, and the kids are not nowhere near conservative.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's interesting because the kid grew up around conservatism. We've talked about this for 10 years now. We do seminars we talk about the American educational system, and then our seminars are usually topical. We're talking about something, but then we always give context. And so we talk about the American educational system. Where are people learning? Where do your kids spend most of the time right now? They spend in school. Are the kids influenced more by a classroom teacher or by you? Who gets to spend more time with your kid right now? Is it you or is a teacher in high school? And I think most parents would say, well, yeah. I mean, they're in the system, so they get to spend more time there. That's the system that's influencing how your kids thinks about life and people and decisions, right and wrong, et cetera. So my point is, yeah, this guy grew up in a conservative home, but where was he influenced? Who was truly teaching him? Who was truly influencing him? He grew up in the same hateful ideology that the vast majority of kids are growing up in America. This guy was influenced by dogma, by left-wing dogma. And we haven't said anything about the shell casings and the messages that were engraved on the shell casings.
Yeah.
You know, where's he getting Antifa? Where's he getting so-called anti-fascist slogans? And then there's some, and it wasn't transgender necessarily. It was a sexual fetish.
Yeah.
Comments that were made on that. Where's that coming from? Yeah. Because that's not coming from conservatism. Those aren't political ideals. They're not political factions that are conservative. Give me a break. So no one's confused about what ultimately persuaded him. Come on.
Yeah. Look, you sound like Pags. Come on.
There was a little bright spot this week, and that was I don't know if you saw the video of the Texas A&M student that spoke out against her teacher, child studies or whatever, who was teaching about transgenderism, and the student videotapes it and says, it's not right. You are receiving funding from the federal government. Our presidents made a law that you cannot teach that. And there was a, interaction, and they let the teacher and the dean go. And now, of course, there's lawsuits. But it takes one student who basically was thrown out of the class to say something, and then she met with the president, and that's how that all came about.
But there's also, Nico, this ultimately falls, I didn't see that, Karen, but I was hearing something from my daughter, and there was a similar exchange. I don't know if it ultimately resulted in someone being dismissed, but it certainly resulted in some correction in the classroom, where somebody brought up and said, hey, I don't think that you can talk about these things and not allow some other point of view. In other words, this is the issue. We ought to be able, you want to talk about DEI, knock yourself out. I don't have a problem talking about DEI. You should talk about DEI. But you don't filter your curriculum through DEI.
That's what that was, right?
You don't frame allowability in a discussion based on DEI principles, because only one side's ever going to get hurt. And that's really what the Texas law is meant to do. You can't impose a system that alienates a set of opinions in favor of another set of opinions. You can't do that. in the state of Texas. So an anti-DEI legislation passed with that in mind. It doesn't mean you can't talk about DEI. It can't mean you can't even say as a student, well, I think DEI is a great idea and here's why. You can do that. It's just as an institution, you can't install those principles and have those principles be the means by which you educate somebody, because those principles are definitionally exclusive. They don't allow other worldviews. They don't allow other presentation of ideas. So, but I'm glad that kids are feeling more empowered to say something's not right here.
Yeah, me too.
Well, because only one side was doing that before. I mean, but this incident was intended as, I mean, whether it was direct intent, but to silence people. I mean, you don't think other influencers are worried? I mean, even people on the left are worried. I mean, you know, Cenk was worried. I mean, so I think he had a genuine. He just thinks it's disgusting. But I mean, even though I disagree with him on almost everything, but still, he doesn't advocate for that. But then yet he was called out for using language, and it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow when you say, you know what, that wasn't my intent, but I get it. And I'm not that guy that's oversensitive. I mean, we got to take the battle to the streets. If you're talking campaign or politically, it's your street game. It's your door knocking. It's your I mean, it could mean that too. It's just now that everything's been bastardized and you can't say anything anymore. Like, get in the fight, and win. Get in what fight? Are you talking about a physical fight? Are you talking about just a fight to win? I mean, you understand, everything has been bastardized. We can't say shit
January
anymore.
6th is a good example.
I mean, we can't say anything anymore, you know, and I don't want to be in a world that way. But that's what's happening. And you have to qualify everything. I don't mean physical. I'm just talking about this. But, you know, and
exactly. Constant qualifications.
Everything.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I get it now. Although the left is less worried about that. You know, when they talk about Trump and January 6th, and then you can just, I love when people put those collage, what do they call those reels together of video after video of between Schumer and Maxwell.
Montage.
Yes.
Montage, thank you. I almost said collage. Montage together of all the people and all the rhetoric that's being
Calling
used.
for violence.
That maybe it doesn't mean, I don't know, but I mean, if you're gonna set that standard, then you better be held to that own standard. But that's not the argument today. I got a lot of questions this week, Karen, on the death penalty. Because death penalty in Charlotte, death penalty here. Those are both technically murders. Those are murders. In Texas,
I get it.
Those would be 5 to 99 or life.
Yeah.
And even if you got life, you're eligible for parole in 30 years. Now, the reality is most people don't make a 30-year parole the first time you're up for it. You're eligible. It's not mandatory parole in 30 years. But still, I mean, did you're even possible
That it's
for
even
parole?
on the table.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and Texas was very big on the death penalty for a while, and it was mainly in Houston, believe it or not, for a bunch of liquor store robberies where, you know, you're committing an aggravated robbery. Someone's, you know, killed in the commission of a robbery, which that was an intent. People were just real quick to pull your trigger, to pull your finger, versus that Charlotte train deal. Now, Charlotte doesn't have the death penalty, so now Trump and the DOJ stepping in and trying to seek the death penalty because of you're on a public transport. You know, I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's going to hold up in court, but that's the argument they're trying to make. They're trying to make it to where there's some type of interstate commerce, even though that was state transport, that wasn't federal transport. There's got to be some federal jurisdiction tied into it. I don't know if it's going to hold up to legal scrutiny, but I understand the attempt. It shocks your conscience, just the unwarranted. I mean, but that happens a lot, guys. I mean, this is, you know, I hate to say it this way, and I'm not saying it to be any other way. Just this, welcome to our world in the justice system. We see a lot of this stuff. You see a lot of these things that even if it's just over an argument, arguments shouldn't lead to murder. They just shouldn't. But that's been happening long before this thing. We're just shocked because it's under political. I see arguments in bars that lead to murders. Arguments in a parking lot lead to murder. I mean, arguments over an ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend lead to murder, or aggravated assault, deadly weapon, or
That
any of this,
employer to his, the employee to the employer.
and he cut off his head.
Yes.
I mean, there's another illegal situation, right? That person had been here illegally. And you have all these discussions going on. What are the rules we're setting for a society to thrive and flourish? That's my goal. I want our society to thrive and flourish. I want the people that disagree with me to thrive and flourish. I do. And my advocacy point is that the set of ideas that I'm advocating will help you thrive and flourish more than you think you will. That's where I'm coming from.
The death penalty situation in Utah seems to me more clear cut and direct, particularly given the statutes that they have on the books, and maybe that allowing for this situation to be included in what's allowable is probably not much of a stretch. So it's conceivable that Spencer Cox, the governor, has said that they're going to pursue the death penalty. So it seems to me that that's more clear, especially the nature of the heinous crime against Charlie Kirk.
The governor doesn't make. He's saying that the DA is going to do it.
The DA was. I don't know if it was the DA was standing next to him. Karen, but they were in concert saying that they were being pretty open about.
And the governor doesn't have that choice, but that's
pursue the death penalty.
They're all on.
Well, he can certainly support it.
I'm sorry, I'm very technical.
No, but he was saying
the governor
he was very supportive of it, and to the extent that he can, he certainly will, support that effort. But setting that aside, back to North Carolina, if I can, for Charlotte, that seems to me a little. I don't know what the capital.
I don't think it's
murder laws.
I think from what I've read, I don't know. It should
is
be
it a death penalty state?
I believe it is, but this is a murder. There's nothing. I mean, if he was trying to take her purse, like in Texas, if he took her purse and then did it.
But what are you saying? You're saying it wouldn't make sense for them to pursue death penalty in this case?
It does. I don't think
it's a
legally
capital
justified.
murder.
It's not legally justified. That would not be capital murder in Texas.
No, but I'm talking in North Carolina. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I don't know.
I just don't know.
I think the feds are coming in. The DOG's coming in.
I can't believe I neglected to look into that. I mean, honestly, as I'm talking,
I think the feds are coming in to seek death penalty because there's no because there's not a.
They're
death
bringing a federal
situation.
hate crime dimension to this.
I think it's not a hate crime. I don't know. I don't think that's the reason why they're saying it was some type of interstate rail.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because people are on a bus or on some type of train or some type of.
I didn't see that angle. I thought that it was going to be. Just because of the nature of the crime. Look, I'm not saying it was racist. I'm saying
an instrumentality of commerce.
But there's a racial that there's a obviously racial element here. But he's also a sick person. This is he's been diagnosed as schizophrenic.
Exactly.
But I want to, and that's why I'm asking. So does that complicate the issue?
Yes, because he'll probably found not guilty. He could be found not guilty by reason of insanity.
For reason of insanity. Okay, I figured it was.
And
going
I'll tell
down
you
that
the
route.
difference. So insanity and competency are different. Competency is at the time of trial. Can you understand the situation, the proceedings, and can you effectively communicate with your lawyer? That's competency. If you're not competent to stand trial, you can restore competency and then go through your trial. Insanity is at the point of the offense. If you are found insane at the point of you can't go back and be found sane when you committed the crime. That means you're missing one of the elements of the crime, the mens rea, the criminal intent. If you believe that the devil's whispering in your ear and you don't see someone and you see you're delusional, you're not found, you're insane, well, then you cannot be prosecuted or found, you're going to go to the normal justice system. You definitely can't be put to death if you're found insane.
I was reading the suspect has a criminal record, including larceny, breaking and entering. He also spent 5 years in prison for robbery with a dangerous weapon starting back in 2015. This is according to North Carolina Department of Adult Correction. In total, he had been charged 14 times in the past, including the arrest, but he was still on the streets.
And I want to go back to the last time before he was allowed on the streets, because I think the dynamic's kind of bizarre to me. The magistrate judge, Teresa Stokes, it was a class 1 misdemeanor, and I think he had been combative with police, and so he's in her courtroom. And I learned this really from a letter that was sent by 10 U.S. reps that had kind of broken all this down. It was sent to North Carolina Chief Roy Wiggins, and they broke all this down, this history, because they're directing their ire at this magistrate judge because she released him on his, and I think the words were written promise that he would reappear to court for a hearing in this class 1 misdemeanor. And she failed, I guess, to acknowledge the fact that this guy had a very, very long rap sheet and the nature of what he was saying to cops, because what was happening is he kept repeatedly calling 911. And he was saying the same thing that his sister has said that he has said to her. That's why she said he's sick and he needs help. But he basically said that man-made materials were implanted inside of him and that they were using those man-made materials, the government, to control him. Yeah. And he kept saying this to cops, kept calling 911. The cops said, look, this is, you're experiencing a medical emergency, get help. But instead of getting help, he kept calling 911. They arrested him. They took her before this magistrate judge.
That would be harassment.
And
wouldn't be assault.
And then she let him roll.
I'm not.
I mean, so you don't consider this guy's rap sheet in that context?
Yeah, but it's a misdemeanor. That's the problem. So you set a bond. You can't hold him. You can't constitutionally hold somebody without a bond for a misdemeanor. You just can't. Now you can put GPS on them. You can do whatever step, and then they can cut it off. I mean, there's just so much you can do. This guy had had been not treated appropriately in the system
That's
long
what it
before
was.
that.
Well,
That's
I
what
wanna-
it
I'm like, why
was.
do you shit on that magistrate judge for? I mean, she's got a misdemeanor in front of her. I mean, so she goes, okay, $100,000 bond for a misdemeanor, then just gonna have a bond reduction hearing,
No, hold on.
and then. You,
But let me back
okay,
up,
all
because I think that's the concern, because despite the history of violent and unstable behavior, she let him roll without bond.
Okay.
So why wouldn't she require a bond?
I don't. She
Or
probably did it 'cause-
or impose some sort of meaningful conditions to.
I mean, what are his 14 charges?
You
It
just-
matters. I mean,
Breaking and
we're-
entering,
okay, well,
stuff
that's-
like that.
yeah,
No,
I mean,
the letter listed him out. It was armed robbery,
Armed robbery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Breaking and entering,
Assault was-
shoplifting, felony larceny, and then it was an arrest of
Well,
14 times.
Yeah, well, the only one violent there is robbery, and it should be aggravated robbery, not armed robbery. I mean, I don't know if how it is in that state. All I'm saying is, you look at the time and when he did that. Was there any mental health issues? There. I mean, look, what you gonna say? A $10,000 bond?
Brown's mother was also weighing in and condemning the
But then
court
do
for
it-
releasing her son because she was forced to kick her son out of a house.
Did she go before
Because
that
she-
magistrate judge to tell her that?
I don't know.
But see, these are things we have to know. So, because then all you can do is set. Okay, you set a $20,000 bond. He can pay $2,000. Someone can pay $2,000 and he's out to 10%. I'm assuming that Carolina has the similar laws that we have here, but you pay a portion of that out. Or you the only other thing you can do is emergency detention. Look, the system failed him long before this. I don't believe we
Absolutely.
should shit on this magistrate judge. I'm not saying you're trying to, George, but anybody should just dump on this lady for she's working with the system that people have provided. I mean, look, you have the same county commissioners bitching about our jails are overpopulated. Well, don't hold people for misdemeanors. And then you got the left saying, wait a minute, hold on. You can't hold someone for a misdemeanor possession of marijuana. People are languishing in jail for misdemeanor marijuana charges. Well, no, they're not. But whatever, that's fine. I mean, let's look at the facts. Let's get rid of our emotions. I mean, so then you have these competing interests, and you have this magistrate judge going like, well, shit, I'm not going to, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's got a misdemeanor. You're going to show up right.
So
PR
the rap
bond.
sheet can't weigh in on this
It
because
can.
she's
Yes, it can. Sure can.
okay.
Yes.
So
I didn't say that.
So why? But I mean, the two questions I was asking was why release without bond or impose some sort of meaningful conditions to safeguard the
how high
public?
bond?
I don't know. I'm asking you. So
Well,
I mean,
I'm asking you because you're complaining about it. So
Well,
I'm saying, well,
it's-
how much?
I guess what I'm
So let's
saying,
say $20,000. He can get out for $2,000. Now what? And what are you going to safeguard the community? House arrest on a misdemeanor?
You
Then
can't.
don't. Well, I mean, you're going to have problems with that
Yeah.
constitutionally.
Yeah.
And then if you're okay with that, then be careful when it happens to your mijito santo when he gets house arrest for something. Now you're going to say, but he has 14. The system failed him long before this.
That's
all I'm
this
saying.
is what's frustrating.
I know.
So
I'm in it
lo-
every day. Trust me. I
So
get
the
it.
logical legal thing is do nothing? Because I
No.
mean, ultimately, she did nothing.
No, she did. She has a PR bond based off what was in front of her. You have a harassment. If you're saying he just called the police 100 times, that's harassment. That's not assault. So unless there's a factor we're missing, that's harassment, unless the statute's different there. All I'm saying is there's only so much she can do with a misdemeanor in front of her. The system failed him long before that. That's all I'm saying. If he wasn't on a probation, if he wasn't on some type of community supervision, there wasn't a motion to revoke, if there was no other reason to hold him, she gave him an equivalent here to a PR bond, a personal recognizance bond. Now, would I have done that if I was a magistrate? No. But she's thinking about, I don't know what her jail population, I don't know how many commissioner court meetings they've had. I don't know what the political, what's the political environment locally and who's bitching about what and whether the sheriff is complaining about resources and the county commissioner and the DAs. There's a lot of dynamics there, guys. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not this chick's fault. So she puts a $10,000 bond on a misdemeanor is a high bond. It's usually $3,500 here. $3,500 to $5,000 if it's high. On a misdemeanor and you pay 10% of that, you're out. Now, you can be no harmful and injurious contact with somebody if it's in a family violence assault, but this is harassment. Don't contact the police. Okay, bye. Get out of there. You're not going to do house arrest. If he does GPS, he can cut it off. And if he even had GPS, maybe he had permission to get a ride to work. So he's on a bus that he had permission to drive to work or to go to work and back and forth. I mean, we're dealing with a misdemeanor here, so it's not that magistrate's fault, in my humble opinion. It's just not. The system failed long before that.
She wasn't Joe Gonzalez. She wasn't just letting
he
people
sucks. I mean, yeah, he's terrible.
letting everybody go out. Okay, thanks a lot. Goodbye.
I looked into her. I guess it doesn't matter that she didn't pass the bar, but
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Why would that matter?
she doesn't seem particularly qualified to me.
I know great lawyers that didn't pass the bar the first time.
No, I'm not saying that. There's no evidence she passed the bar at all.
Yeah,
She's not a judge at all? She's not a lawyer?
Everybody's saying that she is not a lawyer.
Okay, well then that's a law thing here because you have JP. You can be a JP judge here and not be a lawyer.
Right.
No, she went.
And I know some lawyers that they're dumb as shit. You don't. It doesn't
That's
matter
so
that they can take a
true.
test.
That is so true.
All I'm saying is, if I go to the Texas Board of Law Examiners, I can find that on February 2003, Nicholas Anthony LaHood passed the bar. Yes. And you were examinee number 1594. It's out there for everybody to see. That matters to me.
Yeah.
I want to know that my lawyer, I don't know, passed the bar. I don't know. So all I'm saying is I want to know who this person was. Because when I read the letter, I mean, it looked pretty incriminating.
but
It's the person who's had a record of just sort of looking the other way. The bar for a magistrate judge in North Carolina is stunningly low. You don't need a law degree. You don't need to be a lawyer. You just need 8 years experience in a related field, and nobody can agree on what the related field is. Her particular field is she has a past in social services. That's it. So I don't know, man. And so you got somebody who's trying to. I want somebody who does a proper legal consideration of the judicial context here, because it just seems like more could have or should have been done. You just said if I was a magistrate judge, I don't know that I would have done that.
I wouldn't have done that. With that, I would have set a bond. I would have set a 5,000.
Why would you have? And why would you have done that?
Well, because of the record. They don't qualify for a PR bond.
Okay, so all I'm saying is just minimally. Why wouldn't she do that?
How would that have stopped this murder?
So you don't think that would have had any restraining effect on him whatsoever?
All it would have cost was $500 to get out. I mean, who knows? Maybe he could have gotten out on his own. Maybe somebody would have posted bond for him. I'm just saying, would it have stopped this murder? If you would have kept him in jail, then maybe.
It would have postponed it.
There was no foresight that this guy was gonna stab a
all
precious
I'm saying is,
lady.
if I'm eating his dad, I'm thinking something's better than nothing.
Well, sure, Dad,
that's all. I think that the American public, I think, can expect that from a judge, to be thinking in those terms, because they have the rap sheet, they have the context. I mean, it shows a preponderance towards violence. It shows a gross instability. He's been diagnosed as a schizophrenic. He's having delusions. You can see him. He's talking to himself.
Okay, that's a different ballgame then. Then somebody should have stepped in and done an ED, an emergency detention, and that would take him down a different track. All I'm saying, what information was? Look, I'm not defending some nut job with left-wing, magistrate. I'm trying to be objective. I'm trying to be objective. And make sure that my emotions
I'm deliberately
don't take over my
criticizing
analysis.
the judicial system here.
Yeah, that's fair criticism. That's fine.
That's all I'm saying. And it seems to me there should have been enough information. Based on what I'm seeing, why would there not have? I'm asking. It's a legitimate question. Why would there not have been enough context, enough information on his background, on the nature of what he suffered from, and the nature of his crimes to say it's probably not a good idea. This guy's got a rap sheet longer than my leg. Probably not a great idea. Just let him out in the general public. Who knows what could go wrong?
There's a lot of people with mental health problems that are not going to commit that type of murder. And so I don't know what his rap sheet with those other 14. You guys have rattled off 3 of them. The aggravated robbery, the armed robbery, he did 5 years for that, which is low for an ag robbery. It's interesting. Maybe it was a different diagnosis. I mean, determination of what it was. I'm not sure what the facts are without that, but he did 5 years for that. And I don't know what those other 14 are. They criminal trespass? Are they criminal mischief because he's breaking something to take something? Are they misdemeanor thefts? Are they possession of marijuana, possession of a controlled substance under a gram because he's self-medicating? I mean, there's a lot of different analysis we have to go here. I don't have enough information to make a determination. The bottom line is the system failed him a long time ago. He should have been in some type of help. His family, I don't know how vocal they've been. I know they're vocal now. But were they saying, look, get this guy in some type of mental institution?
That's how Newsweek positioned it. You asked me a specific question whether she actually showed up at that particular trial. I don't know. But generally, the mother had been criticizing the court system for those kinds of decisions to repeatedly allow him.
But she could have even signed him in.
Right. And the reason why she criticized it because she had to kick him out of the house for aggression.
Yeah, I deal with that a lot. Yeah.
So,
can't you even... If you feel like your son is a danger, can't you even put him, like call 911 and say, he's a danger?
Yeah, it's an emergency detention. Sure,
Yeah.
you can. To danger to himself or others. Yes, you can do that. That's a whole different ballgame that you go to. And you go to the state hospital, there's a different hearing, there's a probable cause hearing, and then you
They
detain
can't just
him.
walk
and
out.
you detain him. No. You have to have a determination before a magistrate, and then they can hold him for a period longer.
Yep.
Then they have to do the final determination of whether he's instituted or not, institutionalized or not. I mean, so there's a different track. All I'm saying is I don't have enough information. The bottom line is the system failed this dude a long time ago, and that young lady, unfortunately. And so I don't know. I don't have enough. I just want more so I can make a better determination. There's just more to it than just, not you, George, but whoever's dumping on this magistrate judge. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea to have non-lawyers be magistrate judge, but we have non-lawyers that can be in JP court here because it's under a certain amount. and they're not dealing with
didn't know
incarceration
that.
issues, you don't have to be a judge. So even though you're not dealing with big issues and you're dealing with lower numbers of money, I mean, still you have rules of evidence, you have rules of criminal procedure. I mean, you're gonna have a non-lawyer. I mean, again, there's lawyers that are stupid as shit. I'm just saying you have some barrier into making determinations on law. I think you should be a licensed lawyer.
The criticism of the judge didn't come just from this instance, but I guess they're saying that it shows a pattern.
System.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
I agree
pattern.
with
So
that. I agree.
the best piece out there on these details on DeCarlo, the only one that I found was in Newsweek. DeCarlos Brown's mother says he shouldn't have been in the community. Shortly before he was released in January, she had told the court system this is really not a great idea. And then she talked about her personal experiences according to the piece, and it goes on and talks about
wow,
you know, she said, you know, my heart goes out to the victim's family, and then she elaborated on the nature of his previous crimes. I guess it was 5 years in prison for robbery with a deadly weapon.
Okay,
and then returned home with a mom, and in subsequent
So
times.
robbery is a theft with force. So in Texas, so if someone's running out of an HEB with a box of beer or whatever, a pack of beer, and then someone's in the way trying to stop them and they shove them with their forearm, that's a robbery. That's a theft with force. It's a second-degree felony. An aggravated robbery is threatening you with serious bodily injury or death, using a knife, a hammer, a gun, car. I can drive at you. Anything that can cause serious bodily injury or death. That's an aggravated robbery. That's a first-degree felony. So I don't know how it is in their. You have a question? But I don't have time to talk about the death penalty. If you wanted to talk about the death penalty, it's important to talk about it. I think more discussions we can talk about it next week.
Yes.
Whatever you want to do. Any questions or comments?
How do you want to talk about it? I mean, as it applies to these cases, or just generally
both.
philosophically?
Philosophically, I think it's important.
Yeah.
And then also
An entirely biblically defensible concept. Is that what you're?
100%.
I do
And
wanna talk about that next
I have a
time.
complete different. I think I am a responsible supporter of the death penalty, and I say that, and I can support that, you know, legally, but also biblically. And we need to talk about what it drives me insane when I hear AOC talk about all she can talk about is gun violence, and that drives. I mean, I'm never. You're never going to hear me shut up on this. So I'm going to leave you with these stats, and you're going to hear these over and over again. So if you get tired of them, then mute me. Last year, vehicular deaths 39,000. Last year, alcohol-related deaths 178,000. Last year, all gun-related deaths 30,000. Last year, gun deaths excluding suicide 16,500. So there's no comparison. There's zero comparison. So if you're that worried about life, then you better start talking about alcohol-related deaths. That's by far trounces everything else. And you better start passing legislation on getting rid of vehicles or not letting us drive more than 30 miles an hour. I better see legislation on that. And then let's really talk about heart-related deaths and cancer-related deaths, because then you're into the hundreds of thousands. So spare me the fake compassion or worriedness. It's all a bunch of bullshit. It's about power, and they don't want to harm society.
That's exactly
so
right.
we'll talk about that, but you're going to hear those stats over and over again. So be ready. Let's go over and over again. But until then, until we meet next week, and we'll talk about the death penalty on episode 2, I really hope that we can all reflect about what this really means. Not just that the fact that a human being, that a image bearer of God, was taken from his precious wife and those 2 precious children. History was changed for those kids, but I think history can be changed for our society if we don't let this
For the better.
passing for the better.
Amen.
Yes, in vain, if we do the right things from it. And I think we should reflect, regardless of what side you're on, whether it's Alamo Talk, Mark, Antoine, or anybody that disagrees with us or not, about what do we want to set down for our rules of engagement, our foundation for discussing these very passionate and personal issues that we have, and what do we see where do we see it playing out? Because if this is the new norm, and if we're celebrating someone's murder, it wasn't worthy. I mean, it wasn't justified, unjustifiable killing. If we celebrate that, then I think we really have gotten to a place where our moral compass is so depraved and so reprobate that I don't think we can come back. Forget about China. Who gives a shit about Russia? I mean, we're done with ourselves. We're going to implode from the inside out. And so I think we need I hope you reflect on that if you're not a prayerful person. For me, as I pray daily, I pray for the strength to still speak the truth in love, to do it courageously, 2 Timothy 1:7, to reason with people I disagree with, to love on people that I disagree with, to pray for people that I don't like. That one's tough for me, but I've been working on that for years. And to model for me, my Savior, a first-century Jew named Jesus Christ, who historically walked this earth, who lived a life that I couldn't live, who died a death that I deserved, and offered me a gift that I didn't earn. That's the gospel message, by the way. It's 1 Corinthians 15. And so that's what the church should be advocating, and we should be able to reason with people and spar with ideas in our minds, spar with ideas and meet people in the arena of ideas, which is called, it should be traditionally the university, unity and diversity, and try to persuade each other instead of trying to hurt each other, and definitely not celebrate the brutal killing of an innocent man. So God bless you guys. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.